This content is brought to you by Kim Westlund Incorporated, helping you create a vision for your life. Hi, I'm Kim Westlund. I help people just like you discover and take action on their vision so they can build the life they've always dreamed about. I want to give you permission to dream today. If you've lost your dream or your vision and you feel stuck, I want to encourage you. And I understand what it means to lose a dream. When I was a young adult, I had such big dreams and big hopes for the future. And when I experienced divorce twice, bankruptcy, loss, when I had to go on welfare and raise a child on my own for 17 years, that was devastating. I lost my dream in those circumstances. I couldn't see past that day into my future. And it was devastating because I had always been somebody who'd been a big dreamer. I always had a big vision to what I would do with my life. I knew I was going to have great impact in this world. So when those things happened and I lost my dream, it was devastating. I just couldn't see past the day I was in. But it got to the point where I moved past that and I got my dream back. Now, some of you might be thinking, well, I don't really have a dream. Well, then let me ask you this. What do you want out of life? Where do you want to go? If you think about getting into a car and driving, you really should have some kind of destination in mind. You have nowhere that you're specifically going. You're wasting time, gas, money, and where is that getting you? Just probably driving in circles, which makes absolutely no sense. So it's the same thing in life. If you've lost your dream or you just don't have one, or maybe you just simply don't know what to do with your dream, I have some thoughts and ways for you today to help you get out of that place and get into the place where you're dreaming again and thinking big and kind of shaking off that complacency. And I will say this, if you are more of a logical thinker and you struggle with the dreaming side of life, this is also for you. This applies to you too. Logic and structure really do have their place when it comes to some of the ways that we walk out the process of getting to our dreams. The dream itself might seem so illogical and unreachable to you that this is really a stretching exercise to get out of that thinking. No big dream that was ever accomplished looks doable and logical. Big dreams require a leap of faith, but also with a plan. So keep that in mind. Maybe that gives you some hope if you're a logical thinker and if you've really struggled in that area. If you want to dream big, you just need to get fed up with where you are currently at in your life. And maybe even getting fed up with the person that's looking back at you in the mirror. And that might seem harsh, but let me tell you this, if you're willing to tolerate and put up with where you're at, then chances are you are really not motivated enough to make those necessary changes. For me, and where I was at in my own life, my circumstances tended to outweigh my vision and my dreams until one day I had just had enough. So I got fed up. My future had to look brighter than where I was at in the pit of what my life had become. And so until that happened, I just wasn't fed up enough. And this is a big one because you don't want to get to the end of your life and have regrets. I've heard people have done studies, and the number one regret that when people get to the end of their life or they're on their deathbed is that they lived someone else's life and not their own. Can you imagine getting to that place and realizing that when it's too late? The point here is to back up to where you are today. You still have an opportunity to embrace your dreams and embrace the life that you really want to be living. I've even heard the feeling of disgust can move you forward. And when you think about it, the word disgust doesn't really fit with a positive, right? It feels like a negative word. But in this case, if you're disgusted with not being able to pay your bills, or you're disgusted with not being able to take your family on that vacation you have always dreamed of taking them on, or even getting embarrassed, or you go into a restaurant and you don't have enough money, your credit card is declined. I mean, there's many different scenarios here, but when you get disgusted with living a life of lack or a life of less than what you've always wanted to live, that's motivating. So are you disgusted with some of the things that you're putting up with in your life today? That's a huge motivator to make some changes. And you know what? It takes courage to dream. And if you say, it's a little late for me, I'm a little late to embrace big dreams like that and what I really wanted to do, like that ship has sailed, I'm going to say that is not true. I started my current business at 50 years old. That's probably late for some people, but I chose to do it anyway. And I'm so glad I did. I am building something that's always been in my heart. Do you know Walt Disney opened Disneyland in California when he was 53 years old? And there's a really popular story. I know it's been told a lot, but I'll mention it again. Colonel Sanders, who founded KFC, or Kentucky Fried Chicken as he first named it, he founded that company at 62 years old. That's amazing. And Michelangelo, he designed St. Peter's Basilica at 72 years old. And I'll mention one more. Henry Fonda, famous actor. He acted for almost half a century before he ever won an Oscar at 76 years old. These are all really great examples of people thriving and doing things, living out their dreams later in life. So, what stops you from dreaming big? Is it your age? What barriers are you allowing to stand in your way? If it's things like past mistakes, I'm going to ask you, what does courage look like to move past some of those past barriers that you're facing? And where do you leave them? In the past. That's where they belong. You can't change anything that has already happened, but you can move into a future that has your dreams waiting for you. And I like to look at it like this. I picture a car with that big front windshield, and you're looking through that front windshield. It's big. It's, you can see a huge view. But if you're choosing that small rear view mirror and that's what you're choosing to look through, it's tiny. That rear view mirror is so much smaller than that big front windshield. So which one are you going to choose to look through? Do yourself a favor. Do what it takes to leave those past mistakes behind you. You have an entire future ahead of you. And what's the opposite of courage? It's fear. So if you're fearful, it could be for a number of reasons. Fear is a terrible, terrible trap to fall into. But if it's stopping you in your tracks, understand what the root is first of all. And if you don't understand that, get the help you need to understand what's keeping you trapped in fear. There could be a reason for that. And to deal with it, you need to understand that. And then beyond that, I'm going to say, do it afraid. Just do it afraid. One small step forward is still doing it afraid because you're probably going to feel those feelings of fear. But one step in the direction that you want to go is still a step. And then get around some dreamers. There is nothing more contagious than getting around people that are doing the thing that you want to be doing or something like it. Somebody who's a few steps ahead of you, who can serve as a role model and a motivator for you. But I will say this, be careful. This comes with a disclaimer. Be careful who you share your dreams with. There are dream stealers just waiting to cause you to want to abandon ship for whatever reason. They come in many, many forms. So you need to be able to recognize them when they show up in your life. It's kind of like crab syndrome. You've probably heard of crab syndrome. It's when a whole bunch of crabs are in a bucket and one crab is trying to make his way out of the bucket. The other crabs grab hold and pull him back down into the bucket. And this keeps happening over and over. The crab that's trying to get out just keeps getting grabbed by the others and pulled back down. You don't want to be a part of a crab syndrome scenario. You want to challenge yourself to get around people who are doing things greater than you so you can be inspired. Get around those big thinkers. Even get around those people that want to invest in your dreams with their words and their actions. Some things may have to shift because if you've been thinking one way this whole time, it's going to take a bit of an effort to get out of that way of thinking and see yourself beyond where you're at. That takes courage. But again, beware. Not everyone is going to be thrilled with your decision to think big and start dreaming big. So make the necessary adjustments for you. And of course, I want to mention, write down your dreams and start a blueprint. Get your journal out. If you don't have one, invest in one and write it down, pen to paper. There's something magical about writing down your goals, your dreams, and your vision. Sometimes your dreams are hidden in what you've already written. So identify what you really want. Jack Canfield says it like this. He says, one of the main reasons why most people don't get what they want is they haven't decided what they want. It's as simple as that. That just sounds crazy to me. Decide. Maybe that's the decision you need to ponder today. What do I really want? Where do I want to go? For instance, do you want to lose weight? Do you want to travel the world? Do you want to start your own dream business like I did? Do you want to write that book? When you write something down, it becomes clearer for you. And like I said, it becomes more real. So you also need to be specific. If we go back to, do you want to lose weight? How much weight? You need to start breaking that down into smaller goals and get very, very specific and get clear about what that looks like. If you just leave it broad, chances are you're never going to achieve that. Get into the fine details. Give it some thought. As you ponder this over days and weeks and months, let it refine the details, and then stretch your imagination. Because as you start writing, you may add on to that and think, well, that's a start, but this is actually really where I want to go. And that's another way of saying that it might mean that you're going to get uncomfortable with what you're writing, but that's okay. Write it anyway. Write it down. It might seem unreasonable. Think bigger beyond where you've been and then step out. Writing it down is absolutely key. And of course, keep your dreams in front of you. Don't put them away in a book on a shelf somewhere and never look at it. Get creative. Keep it in front of you. Make it a screensaver. Put it on the front of your binder or whatever you use in your regular everyday life. Remind yourself regularly of what you are believing for. So where do you start? With an idea. It's as simple as that. Do you have an idea of what your life should look like? An idea will start growing and forming when you give it some thought and presence in your life, and it will turn into a dream. And then what do you do with that dream? You get motivated and you get some intention behind it, along with some faith and some very practical goals in place. And you'll be well on your way to achieving those things that are important to you. And also the things that you thought were impossible. Subscribe to this channel for more inspiration and resources like this. And if you prefer a weekly newsletter directly from me about your dreams and goals, and you can join that too. The link is in the description. Thanks for listening.